King Henry died, I did not have to raise my sword in anger. I enjoyed hunting, playing with my grandchildren, and talking to my old friends of the wars in which we had fought. I still retained many of my men, even though they were crippled. John of Aldgate had a crippled hand, but he still served me. Rafe Redbeard and James Jameson had suffered wounds at St Cloud, but I had not sent them down the road. They wished to serve me still, and so I retained them as servants. When I went to war, the plate armour I wore took 2 or 3 people to fit it. My sojourn from war and battle ended in the year of our Lord 1413. Henry Bolingbroke, who had plotted his way to the crown, succumbed to the illness which had plagued him since before the Battle of Shrewsbury. His funeral took some time to plan, and it was many months after his death that the lavish funeral took place. I had known that I would be summoned to the new king's side, but the funeral was not held immediately. The new king was making a statement. He was a new king, but he would honour the past with a grand funeral which would be symbolic. There were still those who thought that Henry Bolingbroke had murdered King Richard. Canterbury Cathedral was the resting place of a martyr, St Thomas, who had also been murdered. Many pilgrims visited the cathedral, and the new King Henry was ensuring that they would be honouring his father too. As the former bodyguard of Henry Bolingbroke, I was of course invited to the funeral at Canterbury Cathedral. From that day my life became one of war and intrigue, and the time I spent with my grandchildren became a distant memory. Chapter 1. Although the funeral took some time to organise, King Henry had wasted no time in assuming the reins of power. He had been increasingly involved in the running of England over the last few years while his father's health declined. Along with his uncles, the Beauforts, he had been effectively running England. Now he could determine policy and not follow the wishes of his father. He was his own man. He had put in place plans to retake France from King Charles, and I was part of those plans. It was after the funeral where we had interred his father, and I was preparing to head back to Weedon with Harry and Tom, when Sir John Holland, one of King Henry's oldest friends, sought me out. I knew Sir John well and had fought alongside him.
"King Henry would have a word with you, Sir William."
He smiled somewhat sadly. We knew each other well.
"I fear that your days of peace are over."
I sniffed. As I expected. Is it to be France again?
"You know the king better than any, William Strongstaff, and he will tell you all. I am just the messenger."
The king had taken over Canterbury Castle. It was not a massive fortification, for Dover and Leeds castles, as well as the formidable Rochester Castle, meant that this part of Kent was safe from England's enemies, and Canterbury was cosy by comparison. It suited the bachelor king. A tall and attractive king, despite the scar he had received at Shrewsbury, the king had yet to marry. I knew that he had already decided to marry the daughter of the King of France, and that showed how much he wanted the throne of France. All of his advances had been rejected by the French king, but he would not give up until he had what he wanted. The third King Edward and his son had won France for England at the battles of CrEcy and Poitiers. That it had been lost was the fault of King Richard. King Henry would remedy that. I saw all the senior lords were there, as well as his brothers and his uncle, the Duke of York. He smiled when he saw me and held out his arm.
"William, it is good to see you."
He used the back of his hand to touch my beard.
"The grey suits you."
The king is kind to say so. Appearances never bothered me, and although we had that rarest of furnishings, a mirror, in my hall, I never looked in it. It was my wife who fussed over me when I left the hall.
"You'll dine with me tonight, for I wish to confer with the newest member of the Order of the Garter, Sir William Strongstaff."
The honour came as a complete shock to me. "Order of the Garter, Your Majesty?" The order was the highest order of chivalry in the land, and limited to a mere 24 members. To be elevated to it meant a knight was ranked with the royal family.
"Aye, for it is time you..."